I think that this script may be the first and so far only mechanism out there to automatically stack monochrome mosaic images together and create a seamless image just like this. This nebula is the Mandel-Wilson 9 nebula, and it looks kind of wonky because I messed up the mosaic angles, but it served as a really nice practice dataset for this script. This dataset had 25 sessions of LRGB data from the Kagakama Remote Observatory using an Esprit 100ED telescope. The total integration time was about 22 hours, and as you can imagine, it was a lot to process. It would have taken a lot longer if I were to do it manually. So this dataset, along with a couple of other monochrome mosaics that we did, served as a really nice motivation for me to get this script completed. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. Just the one thing about this dataset is that there was some heavy light leaks. I was testing the Esprit 100 ED setup, so there were some light leaks. So ignore the crazy rainbow colors around the frames. That had nothing to do with the script or Siril, it was just the data itself, but I think the data still looks really crispy. I really like how it turned out. This was fully stacked using my script in Siril, but it was post-processed in PixInsight because I needed to really heavily rely on masking in order to make the dust really pop and try and tame the light leaks as much as I can. Now in this video, I'll give you an introduction to my new monochrome preprocessing script. We'll go over how to install it, and we'll cover two use cases. The first use case will be stacking data from M8, the Lagoon Nebula. It has multiple sessions and multiple filters across those sessions, and we'll get one final result that we can practice or post-process later on. The second use case will be adding M20 to the list, the Trifid Nebula, to my Lagoon Nebula panels, and we'll do a paneled mosaic workflow which works really nicely with this script, and it will give you 3 finished registered frames that you can just composite later on and create an SHO or RGB, whatever kind of composition you want, and start post-processing that. So we're not going to cover the Mandel-Wilson 9 Nebula just because it's 25 sessions, it's a lot of data to process for a demo, and it's also pretty complex. So I'm picking a single session as well as a 2-panel mosaic, which should serve as a really nice example of any kind of paneled mosaic in monochrome. This script took a lot of work to complete, and I just want to send a huge shout out to everyone who helped me beta test this script over the last couple of months. If you'd like early access to new scripts and updates to these scripts, you can join Patreon for free where I make these scripts available, or you can join my Discord server. The invite link is in the description, and just ask to join the beta testing group, and I'll happily include you. And if you'd like to take one step further to support me like these wonderful people on this list, check out the links to Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, and my YouTube memberships in the description and pinned comment below. All testers and paid supporters have had access to this script for many weeks now, and all paid supporters also appear on my website at Naztronomy.com. Before getting to the demo, I just want to mention that if you need help, reach out to me on Discord. That is my preferred method because it's easier for me to organize it, because you can open a thread and I can just pay attention to it or mark it as unread or mark it as read once I've gotten to it. And please send me the logs. The logs you can get by clicking the download link on the bottom right-hand side of the console in Siril. It helps immensely when it comes to troubleshooting. And if you want to automatically mosaic color data from OSC cameras, check out my OSC preprocessing script. And if you have smart telescopes, check out my smart telescope preprocessing script. So now let's get to the demo. First, let's install the new script. So we're going to go to Scripts, Get Scripts, and in the search bar here, you can search for NAS, and it'll be Naztronomy Mono pp.py. Check the box if it's not already checked, and then click on Apply, and it should download the script for you, and you'll locate it in Scripts, Python Scripts, Preprocessing, and it'll be the first one here, Naztronomy Mono pp.py. Now, before we start this up, I just want to mention that you should use a fresh home directory. So I already have one set up. I have a demos folder set up, and I call this Siril Single because we'll be going through 2 different tutorials here. And if I open my home directory, you can see that there is nothing here. It's inside my Siril Mono script demo folder. I have a Siril Mosaic and a Siril Single. So I'll make sure that's open. And then we're going to go to Scripts, Python Scripts, Preprocessing, Naztronomy Mono pp.py. This UI looks very similar to what you're probably used to. And that's because it's basically a copy and paste with functionality changes in the background with some improvements to the user interface. All of this is very similar if you've used the OSC preprocessing script, including session management. There are a few new things here that I'll go over one by one. You can use the add lights, add darks, add flats, and add biases button to add your files here as you go, or you can click and drag and drop your files here and it will add them and create sessions for you. Let's quickly look at what that looks like. So I have my folder here with a bunch of my test data that I'll be working with. I have an M8 single and M8 M20 Mosaic that we'll be working with. And so we're going to be doing the single one first. If you look at the single folder, you'll see that there's two date folders, 7.3 and 7.5, and each of these has three different folders, HA, O3, and S2 for the SHO filters that I'm using. It's the same thing for these 7.5. So there are basically two sessions, and each of these sessions have all of the three filters and as well as a light folder. The script will read the fit setters as well as the folder structure to create sessions for you. So I don't have to go to each light and then click and drag each of these one by one. I can if I wanted to, and it will ask me what kind of files am I inputting. So I'll put lights and it'll add the lights to the session. It does read the filter type, so it will have it in the session name here now. So it does say O3, but I'm going to reset everything and I'll show you if I go back to the home directory here, or the parent of the home directory where I have the M8 single, which has my two sessions. I'm just going to click and drag this whole parent folder here, and it gives me a summary of what sessions are being created. So it has my two dates, 7.3 and 7.5, as well as the three different types of filters in each of these sessions and the number of lights that are getting added, 3, 6, 4, 9, 6, 8. So I'll click on create 6 sessions, and it created them sessions with the filter names in there. Pretty cool. You can add more if you want. It'll just create more sessions. If you need to add more files to a specific session, then you'll have to actually go down to the fits level and click that in here if you need to add that. Otherwise, the script doesn't know whether or not you want to create a new session or not, and it just defaults to creating a new session. Now, adding calibration frames is similar. I have biases, darks, and flats. Inside of my flats folder, I have all of these, blue, green, flat, luminance, O, red, S2, whatever. These are in alphabetical order. So one way to add everything here is to just go down to a folder that's named flat. You can click and drag this in here, and it will add them based on the fit setter. So it is O3, so it will mark them as O3. If you accidentally added a whole bunch of calibration frames to a bunch of your sessions, you don't have to go in one by one, select them, and then click on remove selector files, or click on delete and delete them. You can also click on this little button here that says reset calibration. What this will do is it will clear the calibration frames from your selected sessions or all sessions, and it'll give you confirmation, and it just removes the calibration frame. So you don't have to, if you have 100 sessions, you don't have to go in one by one to fix any mistakes you make. One cool thing you can do here, at least on Windows, and I think you should be able to do this on Mac and Linux as well, is just when you're inside your flats folder, just search for .fit or .fits, select all of them, which will actually have my LRGB filters as well. We're going to click and drag this over here. It'll ask you what types of frames are these. You dropped 140 files. These are flats. Once you have master frames, you can click master flat. So I'm going to click on flats, and then you'll see that it added just the HA flats to my HA lights, only my S2 flats to my S2 lights, and O3 flats to my O3 lights. So it worked out pretty neatly, and it ignored the LRGB because we don't want to deal with those anyway. Now we're going to go back and add some dark frames here. So my dark frames, I have a couple of sets. These are 600-second exposures, so I have 20 of these. So I'm just going to click and drag these 20 fit files, and it'll ask me what types of files am I including. It's going to be darks, and it'll ask me which sessions to apply them to. Since these are just darks that are going to be applied to all of them, I'm just going to click on all sessions, and now I have darks, 20 darks in every single session. It's going to be the same thing if you add master darks. It'll ask you which sessions you want to apply them to, and it'll apply them to everything. One cool thing here is that I added a master config file section here, so you can define a master darks folder. I don't have darks folder for these darks yet, but I will in the future. And once you have the master darks folder, you can also define a master bias file. So this is, if you're using a bias file, it will be just a single fits file. And I do have that, so I'll pull that in. And then, I'll click on save, and then I'll click on import masters. And what this will do is it will look for flats or look for darks and flats, and it'll import whatever it can. So if you look at the logs here, it'll say that master darks folder not found because it doesn't currently exist. I will create one later on, but it did find the master bias file, and you can see that the bias was added to all 6 sessions with just the click of one button. And again, if you made mistakes, you can click on reset calibration and it can delete them. Another cool thing I added is this button here. It says combine like filters. This will only work if you have a single target. So non-mosaics, mosaics will not work with this. This will become disabled. This is useful if you have a whole bunch of sessions. Let's say you have 10 hydrogen alpha sessions and they all have the exact same calibration frames. Why would you want to process them separately? So you click on combine like filters. It'll give you a little summary that it found 2 HA sessions. It's going to turn it into 1, 2 S2 sessions, turn into 1, and so on and so forth. It'll do it for as many types of filters that you have. And then it'll say lights are pooled, calibration frames are kept from the first session because we don't want to duplicate them. And then you click on combine. And you can see that now I only have 3 sessions, HA, S2, and O3, and all of the files here were combined. So I have dates from like 7.3 to 7.6 because they're using the same calibration frames. Another cool thing on this UI here is that there's an export session to CSV. This is actually was a recommendation by my friend Dave, who thought it would be really nice to have the CSV file that we can just copy and paste into Astrophotography. So you click on export to CSV. It'll ask you for your Bortle scale. These were taken from a Bortle 1 site, so I'll click on OK. It'll ask me for the file location, click on save, and if I open it up, you'll see that it has my 3 sessions along with the dates. It gets the first date, so all of them were taken on July 3rd. That's the only downside of combining your sessions. So if you don't want to combine your session, if you want to keep your dates separate, you can export the CSV before combining like filters. The only thing this cannot do that you can copy directly into Astrophotography is the filter, because the filters in Astrophotography are mapped differently. It's not going to be the same. So HA, S2, O3, it's going to be blank on Astrophotography. You'll have to fix yourself. But otherwise, it works pretty well. I actually do like this feature. It saves a lot of time, especially for uploads. On the bottom here, there's a help section. It's mostly a copy and paste from the OSC script. I have to update this, so that'll be in the next patch. Like the 2048 maximum frames in Windows is no longer a thing if you have the latest version of Siril, because it's no longer experimental. It is now a total 8,192 files. So I'll have to go through this and update this, but most of it is still pretty accurate. You can click on YouTube to go to my YouTube channel, find me on Discord if you need help, and then Patreon or buy me a coffee if you'd like to support me and my work. Save presets and load presets works the same way. So I click on save presets. You'll see that a presets folder appeared here, and inside I have a JSON file that has all of my settings here. All right, now let's go to the second tab, the processing tab. Most of this is also very similar to the OSC preprocessing script. Again, copy and paste. The one thing you'll notice here is that some of these things were already checked, and that's because now the script will remember your settings from one session to the other. And we'll see this in the second demo when I'm doing the mosaic. So if you have dark flats, you can use dark flats. It's a little bit weird how all this is processed. Sometimes dark flats need to be also applied to the lights file or the lights file. So sometimes you have to press this, and if your flats aren't being applied properly. So if you have data that looks weird, like the dust motes are still there, try checking this on, try checking this off, and see what you get. Drizzling is always a good idea, I think, especially for mono data at 1x. I usually use pixel fraction of 0.9. I skipped the background extraction, but background extraction is another thing. If you have weird stars, weird background, try checking this on and off and see if that works. And cleanup intermediate files works exactly the same way, where it'll process your data and clean up after itself. There's the filter options here. You can use them if you need to. You can switch between sigma and percentage. There is a enhancement request to also allow absolute values, so I'm going to work on that in the next patch. My recommendations for the filter is to filter your frames before you even use this script. you'll save a lot of time is because, or you'll save a lot of headache later on, because the filter options here get applied after the registration settings, which may be a little bit late in the process. So my recommendation is always to use something like the blink browse sort filter script, which is another Python script written by Adrian, who is one of the Siril developers. Use that, filter your files, and then include them in this script here. Feathering is a great idea if you are doing mosaics. I'm not doing a mosaic here, so I'm going to check that off. Weight stacking is also always a good idea. It will help you keep the crispiest data with the most weight. You can select number of stars, weighted FWHM, and noise as the three options. You can just save calibrated lights. It'll create a new folder and it'll save all of your calibrated lights in there if you want to just save those and not have to restack your calibration frames into your lights later on. After normalization is a good idea. It balances out some of the background. In the target mode here, by default, it's single target. You can also switch it to Mosaic, but it's not going to work here because Mosaics need something special, which I'll show you where it does. And finally, register final frames is where it will take your final stacks from all three of these frames, and then it will create another 3 files with R underscore, which means they're registered. That means you can go and combine them without doing any extra work. All right, so I think I did everything. I do need to accidentally set that to 0.7, so I'm going to set that to 0.9. And then when I click on Start Processing, this will also take the action of saving all of my settings into these settings so that when I restart Siril or the script next time, it remembers it. So I'm going to click on Processing, Start Processing, and I'm going to let it go, and we'll check back when this is done. All right, that completed at 12:59 a.m. So let's see, when did I start this? About 12:55. So it took a little bit over 4 minutes to process all of this. Really cool. If you look at my folder here, my home directory, there are 6 files. So I have the regular Lagoon Nebula panel 3, HAS2 and O3, as well as 3 that are R underscore. And these are the registered frames, which means that I can just combine them. I also have the masters directory here where it has the flats, darks, flat stars, flat stars for each of these sessions. I only need the darks from one of these, so I can actually go ahead and delete the darks from the S2 and O3 because I can just reuse that one. And then the flats I can reuse in my next session. So if I go to image processing, composition, RGB compositing, I'm going to look up, I'm going to do this as a regular SHO, right? So S is going to be red. So that is S2. Green is HA, and then this is O3. Let's change my viewer. Look at that. Look at that. Let's do a linear match. That didn't change much, but anyways, this is what I have. Just single sessions, SHO, monochrome. I can crop this and then do some more work on it. But this is, it's off-center because this is part of a bigger mosaic, which you'll see a little bit of in a couple of minutes. But yeah, look at that. It looks so crispy, so cool. And it just took a few minutes. And I think this is already played cell, so I should be able to just do this. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. M8. So I have this. We're going to do this all over again now with paneled mosaics. So before I go into the script again, I'm going to show you what my folder structure looks like. So I am going to go into here. And inside here, I have 2 folders here called panel 3 and panel 4. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to start at panel 1. The only requirement here is that your folder names need to have the word panel space number somewhere in it. So it can be panel 1 in the beginning, it can be panel 1 in the middle, it can be panel 1 in the end, just like how I have here. And inside of these panels is where you have your sessions. So inside panel 4, I have 2 sessions here, 7.6. And inside these sessions, I have my filters along with lights and then my fits file. So it's a little bit of a complex structure, but once you really look at it, it kind of makes sense because you have the panel, and inside the panel, you have your sessions. Inside the sessions, you have the actual filters and lights and blah, blah, blah. If this doesn't make any sense, if you have any questions, if you think I can clarify this in another way, do let me know. Panel 3 is what we already stacked, so this is this, and we're going to restack this just because it's going to be part of our mosaic. So let's see how this works in the script. Before I run this, I want to make sure that my home directory is set to my empty directory here, my Siril mosaic directory, and I'm going to go to scripts, Python scripts, preprocessing, monopp.py. Two things you can do here is you can just click and drag these two folders here, and it'll create these panels for you. You can see that it recognized the panels. Or if you want, you can actually go back one directory to the home directory and just drag the parent directory. So that way, if you have 100 of these panels, you don't have to select them all. Just go back one here, click and drag the parent directory, and it'll do the exact same thing. And click create 12 sessions. Since this is detected it's a paneled mosaic, you cannot do combine like filters. So in this case, in session 3, each of these sessions will be stacked separately, and then it'll be combined. So what the script does is for each of these panels, it will do the first session, so it'll combine HA, and then it'll do this one HA. And before stacking them, it'll combine these two and then stack them. So the calibrations are per session, but the stacking is per filter and per panel, if that makes sense. I'll also do import masters because I have the same bias file for all of these. I did not configure my master darks yet, but I can go back to my M8 Siril single file where I have my masters here. I have my flats, darks, flats here. I can select all of these. I'm going to click and drag these here. And you can see that it just added, it didn't prompt me because it knows that this file here is the O3 flat, this one is the S2 flat, and this one is the HA flat, and it just added them, right? HA. Oh, here it's O3, perfect. And I did see that it missed the darks, so that's I'm gonna have to work on that because I think the session name here kind of confused us. I'm gonna click and drag this. Didn't add. So I discovered a bug here while testing this. Is probably going to be the name here that's kind of confusing us. So I'm going to get rid of the first part so that it's just 600 seconds dark stacked fits. Click and drag this. And we also want to get rid of the underscore stacked part. You can just change it to master or something so that you know for yourself. So discovered a small bug here. So I'm going to click and drag this here so that it asks me what type of file it is. So I'm going to say it's a master dark file. Which sessions to apply this to. It's going to be the same thing for all of them. So I'll do all sessions, and now it's here. So again, the bug here is that because I had the file name as HA, and inside the fits file, the fits header is actually S2, it was actually messing it up. So I gotta work on that in the next patch. So the workaround here is to just get rid of the darks underscore stacked, name it anything else, and drag it and drop it so that it treats it as like a single file. So, all right, so now all of my sessions are set. I have masters, so they won't be stacked again. And I have my 2 panels here. So I'm going to go back to my folder here. So my Siril Mosaic, there's nothing here. I am going to click on Save Presets so that it saves my presets. And I'm going to go to my Processing tab. Like I said before, it remembers all of my checkbox settings. So I did turn off feather before because feather wasn't needed for a single panel or a single target. So I'm going to turn this back on. I'm going to do 300 pixels. Very aggressive, but it works. I'm not going to save calibrated lights. I'm going to do weighted stacking FWHM. That works for me. Make sure mosaic is selected. Do not select single target. I should probably disable that when panel mosaic is detected, but maybe for the next patch. And then click on register final frames and click on start processing. And then we'll let this do its thing. You can see that it's creating these collected lights folders, the sessions here, really easily. And we'll come back and see what that looks like. All right, that finished. So let's see what the folder looks like. So here we have, again, it looks very similar. We have 6 files. So we have the regular files, and then we have the registered files here, HA, O3, and S2. And each of these should be a mosaic of its own. So let's see what that looks like. I'm just going to close the script because I don't need it. Let's open up HA. Look at that. It is a mosaic. So it looks weird. Don't worry about that. Open up the next one, O3. Look at that. And then S2. Look at that. That is beautiful. And they should be registered, so I should be able to go to image processing, composition, RGB compositing, say yes. Let's do a simple SHO. So S, H, and O. Let's do a linear match. I don't know if that did anything, but there we go. Of course, the color is all false color, but you can see that it looks super nice. Do you see the seams here? Because I don't. It seems to have blended in super smoothly. There are some of these artifacts here. It's because, again, I tried to fix my mosaic and I did not do well. But this will be cropped, or I'll have to do some more mosaics to just write over it. But anyways, this is my M8 M20 mosaic. It's 2 panels out of 4 panels, so there'll be more of it. But just for demo purposes, this is what I was able to get with my new monochrome processing script that can handle mosaics automatically and give you your files super easily. Now, if you use this script, I would love to hear from you, get your thoughts on this. Although this script was pretty heavily beta tested by a lot of people, only about 3 or 4 people, myself included, tested the Mosaic script or the Mosaic workflow. And if you have any improvements in mind or you find bugs in this, please do report them. I will fix them as soon as I can. I'm already working on the next version 1.0.1, which has some bug fixes and some enhancements to the script. I also plan on publishing some of the enhancements you saw in the monochrome script into the OSC and Smart Telescope script, such as persistent configuration and maybe CSV exports for easy adding to Astrobin. And paid patrons will also get access to my M8 and M20 data to play with as soon as I can finish the entire mosaic, which is about 4 panels. If you made it this far in this video, a huge thanks to you, because I know this video was long. So until next time, clear skies.